What's going on? This is Last Call Fantasy Football. Kyle Justin here for the final episode of the 2024 off season. This is our favorite time of the year. We got right now, as of recording, we have the Colts playing the Panthers right tonight on preseason. Started week
Yeah, I
3.
think they're playing right now.
Yeah, so the Colts are
Wait,
down
no, Bengals.
36-0, and
No, they're not. Adonai Mitchell, basically, all you need to know for the news today. Adonai Mitchell scored a touchdown, and he's probably better than Justin Jefferson at this point. And Anthony Richardson looks like the best football quarterback we've ever seen.
Well, I said it was August 22nd, or if I didn't, it is August 22nd, not April 1st, not April Fool's Day, because there's no shot that's going to happen. But I don't know. There's a football game on, and we are here talking to you guys instead of tuning in to the
Well,
week 3
because it's preseason. No
and
one
week
cares.
3 preseason. So, I mean, I think they grabbed Joe off the street and lined him up at left tackle today. So, anyways, the reason I bring it up is it is our final episode before the season starts. So this is prime time draft season. What he said is prime time football time. So everyone's getting their drafts done, and that's kind of the story of this episode. This is the story of our 2024 fantasy draft because we drafted,
Now, this is the story of my life.
and my life got flipped, turned upside down. I don't know why I started
Why'd you
talking.
go Indian? Now, this is the story of my life.
Listen, man, you're throwing me off my game here. I'm trying to intro dramatically what this episode is about. It's
My
about
bag.
our fantastic draft that
My
we
bud.
had. Our fantastic draft that we had on April, what was it, 17th? I don't know. It was last Sunday. Yeah, no, the
April.
18th. Sorry, April. August 18th, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Me, Justin, and the rest of our league, we had our main league draft. What we cared the most to prepare for. I have a couple more coming up here within the next week, but it went great, and we're excited to share the story of what happened in our draft because, listen, we pay attention to all the news. We're in the fantasy world, and we had to. I wanted to talk to you guys and make sure we take a step back and realize that fantasy football is a game. It's a game that we love, and it's a game that is played by millions of people that don't think the same as everyone else. Things happen in your draft
Clearly.
that you're not going to believe. There's some things that happen in ours from friends that they're not, huge in the fantasy space. They've been playing for damn near a decade, but they don't see things a certain way. So you think, oh, I don't have a shot on this player, or I'm banking on this player coming to me in the 8th. He could go in the 2nd. Like, you just do not know. So this is a come to Jesus meeting, come to the reality that this is a game where nuanced things happen and you can be excited about it. So wanted to run through that. And also, I revealed it on social media yesterday, showcasing mine and Justin's team in that draft. And so if you want to be able to have something easy to look at, go take a look at that. But I wanted to give Justin and I the opportunity to debate. It's over here. You got to point down there. No. It can be anywhere. I'll put it around. Give Justin and I the opportunity to explain our decision making, explain the steals we think we got, the misses we avoided, or the misses that we got and unfortunately didn't get on our team. But I think both of our teams are going to make a strong run for the championship, unlike what NFL.com said for
NFL
Justin's
Fantasy does
team.
not think so. I
Nope.
think I'm going to win one game.
My draft recap was 10-3. I'll take it. Justin's was 1-13. Embarrassing.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I don't know how that's possible.
NFL Fantasy was like, Justin Curry's team is super great. They got this receiver in the 3rd, and it's built super well. And then it was like, project to finish 1-13.
Yeah.
Last place. I was like, bro, they literally just talks up my team. It's so good, so good, so good. 1-13.
I know. But if you go 1-13, I will listen.
Tired.
I'll
Ugh.
He'll be fired from this show if you go 1-13.
But
Hey, but listen, man, what did the Colts do after going 1-13?
they drafted Andrew Luck.
Yes. So next year you will be great for 2 years and then you'll retire early.
Yes.
Anyways, moving on. So we're gonna get into it. Only a couple pieces of news we found relevant to share with you guys. So kick it off, Jabo. Actually, hold on. I saw you crack your beer without me. We've developed a routine here, and we've done it together.
Have we?
I think so.
Have we developed a routine?
We don't know when it comes during the show, but we do it at the same time. So,
She said.
Anyways, Bucks
right.
Bud Light again because I did not go to the store and it's been a little hectic around here.
Drinking the same beer today, but I found these cans and I think they're really funny.
They are actual size, measured after Justin.
Yeah.
4 inches is real impressive, my friend.
I don't know. If you want to actually shotgun some beers at a tailgate, these are perfect.
And want to get called a poon immediate, you roll up. Hey man, I'll challenge you to shotgun. All right, let me go grab a beer. You come back with a little toe downs.
But you know how funny that would be though? If you throw the can to somebody, here you go, man. They'd be like, what the fuck?
The gimmick beer. But anyways, tastes the same. All good. Cheers. Let's get into some news.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's your cue while I take a drink, dumbass.
Yeah, I was like, damn, that's a long drink. Okay. So Jahan Dotson is traded to the Eagles for I think a 3rd round pick, right?
Yeah,
I think it's a 3rd and 2 7s.
Yeah, but the Eagles also the Manders gave the Eagles a 5th as well.
Yeah. So I don't think it's really relevant at all for fantasy football, but it could mean more eyes on Terry McLaurin from Jaden Daniels. So,
which could be a negative. If they have rookie Luke McCaffrey and De'Ami Brown lined up with Terry McLaurin, if you're an NFL defense, you're going to try and shut down Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, but I think also if you're the Commanders, you're not trading away Jahan Dotson if those two aren't better options. So,
or that your receiving core is just a wash, so you might as well trade him while he has some value before he sucks it up this year and is worth a ninth and is worth a 7th when you just got a 3rd for him while he still has a 1st round.
I don't know. I believe in camp they were saying he was fighting for a roster spot almost. So,
well, that's not telling for the Commanders and Jaden Daniels' rookie year. His weapons, that's kind of sus.
Yeah, he does have Ben Sinnott, and do they still have that quarterback that was turned tight end?
Logan Thomas? No.
Yeah.
No, he is gone.
Hmm.
But Zach Ertz is there. Zach Ertz.
And he's a starter right now?
Apparently, yeah. Yeah, Zach Ertz is a starter. Back with Cliff Kingsbury.
Dang, maybe Ben Sinnott will start sooner than I thought.
The Commanders are going to be an interesting team this year. But I'll touch on that here in a moment. Spoiler alert. But yeah, so Jahan Dotson traded for a 3rd essentially, and I can't remember what our bet was, but if I will personally buy you a beer, you know which bet I'm talking about. Whoever can find that clip and send it back to me so I don't have to go back and find it. Me and Justin bet that Bo Nix would be starter week 1 for Denver. And he said that, did you say Zach Wilson or Stidham? It doesn't even matter. Whoever it is, you didn't say Bo Nix. So I win. I knew that my QB was going to start the year. And I think the Broncos are poised to be great in the future. This year, maybe a wash. Not too many great fantasy options. But someone who I guess could be a positive for fantasy going forward in a year or 2 time. So
if any of you imaginary fans want to go and look through hours of footage of us talking, send us a clip.
I'll buy you a beer and we can watch Bo Nix terrorize the AFC West for years to come. So
Yeah, we'll see.
Anyways, that's it. I'm gonna bore you guys with the news. Let's just get into the fun, realistic draft that we had with real life people who cared deeply about this league and what kind of happened, and to give some clarity into some context on what might happen in your league. So coming up here soon. So moving forward, our draft recap, the story of our 2024 fantasy drafts. So this is Justin and I's teams respectively. So we're going to start with that. All right. So I made this graphic. This is one I posted on Instagram. This is how our team shook out. I went QB early with Jalen Hurts, Derrick Henry, Breece Hall, Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, Trey McBride, Joe Mixon, along with the bench of Jared Goff, Trey Benson, Brian Robinson Jr., Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice, DeAndre Hopkins, and Brian Thomas Jr. And Justin, read off your team.
In order or just by position?
And from top down.
All right. I drafted Anthony Richardson, I think, in the fourth or fifth.
Well, we'll go over when, but just run through the team.
I've got AR-15, Bijan, Kenneth Walker, Michael Pittman, Garrett Wilson, David Njoku, Raheem Mostert. I have Jaden Daniels. I have
Ty Chandler.
Hold on 1 second.
Zach Charbonnet. Ladd McConkey.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin. Jaden Reed and Brock Bowers. And also, Justin made a fantastic move at the end of his draft. He grabbed Brock Bowers with the last pick. No.
Close to it.
Close to the last pick. But he also drafted Jonathan Brooks. And so he purposely did. We play kicker and defense. Hate if you want. We like it. It's fun. He purposely didn't draft a kicker or a defense, one or the other.
Yep,
so
defense.
He could, once the draft was over, put Jonathan Brooks in our IR slot and then just pick up whatever. Right. So he essentially got a free player on his team because he didn't draft something that wasn't going to get drafted anyways. I didn't think about that. I drafted the Saints defense because they played the Carolina Panthers week 1, and I'm always going to bet defense on Bryce Young. But that was our results. Just going forward, so I can show the draft board. I say we run through kind of what happened during the draft, and then we can, now that we outlaid our team, then we can say our piece about our team, what we think about it. So luckily, Justin was still in the draft room because on NFL.com it closes after a while, but he was able to snag a screenshot of our draft board, which we've played on NFL.com fantasy for, I've played on it since 2012. It's just old habits, and I love it. I
also like the app.
I think visually it's the best fantasy app. It just doesn't have all the same great functionalities and things you would think it should have. But for example, this is what our draft board looks like. It doesn't snake around. It didn't snake around during our live draft client either. It just goes from left to right, left to right. Yeah, so looking at this here, everyone knows Christian McCaffrey should have gone first, and he did. But and we're not going to run through pick by pick. You can take a look and see exactly. I made some notes. I went through our draft board, and we discussed like what were some things that shouldn't have happened that did. What are some things that didn't happen that should have, And the one thing that I noticed, like at the top, the first round, second round is pretty status quo, except for one little guy at the end of the third. And Devon Achane went all the way at the back of the third, RB 14. If you're doing mock drafts on Sleeper, the dude is at the 2-3 turn. Granted, we are in a 10-man league, so it's a little bit more congested, but still, as RB 14, he's usually the RB 7 off the board.
And I want to say a little piece about this. I think that this is an example of what happens when people actually get ready to draft and they're staring down a player that might not touch the field as much as you would like him to, and you have to draft him so high. This is what happens.
You got to
This is the
have
reality of drafts. Like stuff like
iron
this happens
stones.
because, yeah, I mean, you have no clue. Devon Achane was good for what, 2, maybe 3 games last year, and then he was hurt the rest and sitting behind Mostert other
He was
times. So it's
good.
like,
He was just like pure potential, and I mean, obviously, he had the massive 50-plus point game against Denver, and he is someone you purely have to project him to do exactly what he did at a higher volume to be worth
right.
that pick at the 2-3 turn. But he fell all
He's
the
a
way.
scary pick, yeah.
Someone could have gotten him here as their RB3 if they went RB, RB, RB. And for example, the guy who did draft him went A.J. Brown in the first, Gibbs in the second, Achane in the third. So, a
Yeah.
ton of upside for him. And I think it was a steal. Personally, he wasn't just where I fell in the draft at the fourth slot. I mean, he shouldn't have gotten to where he did, so he wasn't going to get back to me anyways. But that can happen with someone who's has high risk, high reward.
He actually
We
did get back to me, and I was one of the guys who let him drop.
You
Drafted
drafted Ken
Kenneth
Walker.
Walker over him because, in my opinion, I was just I knew Kenneth Walker was going to start, and I think he's a good player too. So I was like, why not take the player with almost no risk, who I also think is good. So
Right.
that's where you just have to be prepared for bombshells like that in your draft for sure.
Absolutely. Um, and the next, if you're going down through, through our draft board here, Mr. Stephon Diggs went before Nico and Tank Dell from one of our buddies who I would say he isn't in as involved in the day to day NFL. So think of it. That's name recognition right there.
Right.
Stephon Diggs. Everyone knows who Stephon Diggs is. And he didn't have Stephon Diggs last year on his team. If he did, he probably wouldn't have taken him just because he didn't feel that. But when you see, Stephon Diggs, the beginning of the year, he was great. He is a more name brand player on a new opportunity. It's flashy. You see the Instagram post. But he went above Nico and Tank Dell, which I wouldn't do either way, and they even fell way further down in the draft. So
Yeah.
he was
It
wide
could be the
receiver
right move,
13.
but um, yeah.
I mean,
It's
we could eat crow on these. He could be the bona fide one target. It was just the Joe Brady system that slowed him down, and that could happen. But from what we see every day, looking at these numbers and these drafts and these ADPs, that
yeah.
hasn't happened.
And the
So
team's actions don't really show it either.
right, and it could pay off for our friend Gio here. But so don't automatically think, oh, I'm gonna get Nico. Um,
Oh, he did name drop him.
well, this screenshot has all of our names, and his team name happens to be just his name. So suck it,
Lame.
Gio. He did change it. I did bully him into changing it.
Yeah. We should have a
But
mandatory rule every year. You have to change your name.
I was about to do that because we've got some OGs in here, and actually, this is the first year that I've.
Although
haven't-
Caleb's team is kind of iconic at this point.
I mean,
Your team was iconic too, but it was revolving around a player who, for one, wasn't even a fantasy player, and
yes,
for two, is
it
long
was
retired.
one year we did the individual defensive player. I was Von Miller time, Broncos guy,
Yeah.
whatever. I was Von Miller time since 2012. Um, but yeah, no, I agree. We should do that. Um, so yeah, the next shocker, something you should be prepared for, is if you go down and you look at these teal boxes here. QB1, Josh Allen. Right before me, I would have taken Josh Allen. I was so excited. First pick in the third for me. But didn't Jalen Hurts, can't complain, elite as well. Then Lamar Jackson, because I think, people start seeing the two QBs go back to back off the board. They're like, I don't want to miss the boat. And then, Mr. Patty Mahomes at the, our buddy Wilma Dickfit over here. He's had Mahomes each of the last 3 years. He's addicted to it. And then right below him is Mr. Dak Prescott. He was the QB5 off the board. And I mean, he went before Anthony Richardson, who,
Yeah,
think about what
which
you
is
want.
insane.
If you carbon copy last year and this year, Dak Prescott should be in the second round. But
Yes, but also if you know that you're for what, 8 games of the season, he's going to hurt your team. That's been his issue, since he's been in the league. I don't think he's had very many seasons where he's just dominated the entire season. I don't think he has, and that's why he's never finished as what quarterback one. Because if he had dominated every season the way he did the end of last season, then he would be the wide receiver one all of those seasons.
I will say the CD Lamb manager grabbed Dak too. So even if you reached on him, he grabbed that CD Dak stack, which
Yeah.
last year won so many people championships. So
I mean, it's awesome that he grabbed him. Honestly, I think it's great for his team. But the issue more so is just that you could have got Dak in probably the eighth, maybe even the 10th round. And he
yeah,
drafted him before
but
Anthony
this
Richardson.
episode, this show is explicitly out here to tell you, like, you might not. What if so opposite end of the spectrum? What if you were? I'm gonna punt QB. I'm gonna take Dak in the eighth. Dak was so good last
Yeah.
year. All these QBs are going above him, and then boom, Dak Prescott goes. Someone drafts a backup QB, and now you're stuck with Sam Darnold. To be dramatic,
Well,
to
okay.
be
Yeah.
dramatic. But you're out of a tier that you didn't want because someone wanted the stack or whatever. So just be prepared to
Yeah.
have people in your mind and go get them because you stuff like this can happen.
Yeah. You've got to have backups. Like for me, if I wasn't going to get Anthony Richardson, it was Joe Burrow if he fell enough. And if not that, then I was going to wait all the way until Jaden Daniels. And I ended up getting both, which was cool.
Right.
Because Jaden Daniels ended up falling really far.
Yeah.
Not really,
And
so.
certain drafts and leagues just like pick certain people, and we'll get into that here in just a few picks, but that they just won't touch with a 10-foot pole. So moving forward, DeAndre Swift there in the fifth round, first pick of the fifth round, RB 17. He was drafted before the likes of Joe Mixon, James Conner, people who we had seen go way. I was wanting here uh, a wide receiver, honestly,
I will
but
say, though, I almost think it's more telling that all of those running backs fell to there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's even crazy that he went above those players. I think it's more so crazy that all those players were still there at that point.
right. Well, I mean, if you look at it was very wide receiver or running back heavy, which our league is notorious for doing that. I'm looking, I see a lot of orange here on this first 5 rounds draft board screenshot. That
Well, yeah, he showed me the show notes, and I saw, oh, Devon Achan, the 14th running back in the third round. I was like, there's no way there was 14 running backs in 3 rounds.
mm-hmm.
Sure enough, I mean,
I mean, and
and
a
so a run
10,
of wide receivers must have gone, obviously, which made those running backs fall
yeah. So
insanely.
because that run was essentially Jalen Waddle, Patrick Mahomes, then you had Achan, and then you had so pretty much the whole fourth round, only 2 running backs were taken. It was Kamara and Jacobs. So the top end was heavy, and wide receivers went, and a quarterback and a tight end. So DeAndre Swift was there at the 501, and I wanted a receiver here because at this point I had already drafted Derrick Henry and Brees Hall. I
Right.
was going RB. We had done mocks. I liked my team better RB in a standard league, and so I wanted a wide receiver in my fifth round. That just made sense to me. But with Joe Mixon and James Conner staring me in the face because she took Swift, who I didn't expect either of those players to be there. Um, which from
Yeah.
the show you guys have probably seen, I like DeAndre Swift. I think he's gonna be fine this year.
Oh, yeah. I think it's fine that he even went over those players. I think he's a very slept on player. He's a starting running back for the Chicago Bears, who, should have a pretty good offense this season. So I think his outlook is probably better than it was last year, honestly.
Yeah, and but
And
you
he was
just
good
don't
last year.
know. So I took Joe Mixon for best player available. No
Yeah.
regrets there. But
I
moving,
think we skipped over it too, though, but something I'm sure you guys saw in the mock drafts that me and Kyle did. what threw me for a loop is Jonathan Taylor went in the first round, like I believe the pick right after Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, yeah, he was at the 108 here in our draft. Justin
And
drafted
so if
Bijan.
you honestly, I would even claim that Kyle even got the running back. Not that you got the idea from me, but like that's typically what I do. And Kyle is usually the guy to like mix it up. I've gone to running back, almost running back, almost every year we've done drafts. And this is actually the second year in a row though that I've drafted Garrett Wilson in the second round. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I was shaken though. You know, I had to completely abandon my Jonathan Taylor in the second round and just
Mm-hmm.
I saw Garrett Wilson there. I was like, I prepared for it.
Right.
So
So
you gotta prepare.
because especially in the first two rounds, two players go where they're not supposed to. That can change your whole team. That
Yeah.
can change your whole team. Um, but moving on, we'll run through these a little bit quicker now that we. Actually, there's three more that I really want to focus on that we can zoom through. Um, Next up is what I thought was a shocker is our man George Kittle was at the end of the fifth, which is, whatever, call your shot. But there's two players who I wanted on my fantasy team so bad that are still on the board in Mark Andrews and Trey McBride. Were both on the board before George Kittle, or after George Kittle got picked. And this goes back to what I was saying before. I'm gonna put him on blast again. Our boy Gio. You hear George Kittle. You see the NFL mic'd up. You see how much of a beast he is. I had him on my team last year. He's big plays. He can win you a week. But those guys who you didn't really see for a full season, but like it's there and it's as bona fide as it can get to take that next step when you already know what George Kittle is. Him doing that allowed a couple of us to snag them way later. So George Kittle as the fifth tight end, or sorry, the fourth tight end, only behind Kelsey, Laporta, and Kincaid. I think it's kind of crazy. Thoughts?
Um, you know, I don't know. I think in that tier of tight end, it really is just kind of whoever your personal preference is. And obviously, the Brandon Ayuk trade news might have played into that last minute because that was like right before we went into our draft. It was like,
Right.
Brandon Ayuk, that's the Steelers news came out that they had kind of almost accepted a trade, but it was still up to Brandon Ayuk. I actually just heard a stat today. I want to say the stat was that George Kittle leads the league in like the last 4 years in yards per game at the tight end position.
I mean, I don't doubt it because how many tight ends are going to get 142 yards in a game?
Right.
Usually the big fantasy tight ends are the ones who can get in the end zone three times in one game.
I
George
think it's
Kittle,
more so just the fact that though, like it's not that he's like a boom bust player though. I think it's more so the fact that he's just never healthy.
he's a boom bust player. He several times can get you less than 30 yards in a game.
Uh,
He for sure has those games where he is the game plan going forward, and so
yeah,
he
I do
gets all the
think if
credit.
Ayuk leaves, it will be
Oh, for
huge
sure.
for him. I think he'll be a league winning tight end for
No,
sure.
for sure. He could be. But this one is the biggest draft faller. And if you're looking at the far right corner of our draft board here, you'll see where this man went. Drake London at the last pick of the fifth round, wide receiver 20. Drake London in every single mock draft is the top ADP wide receiver for me to take in the second round of any draft. So he could have been my wide receiver one in the second round. I personally don't think he's worth that, but he's definitely worth the last pick of the fifth. 100%.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think he slipped through my fingers as well. He's someone that I was probably expecting to already be gone.
Right.
So at that point, I wasn't even looking at him. And I guess that's another tip for you guys: is just pay attention to all of the positions, even if you're like, oh yeah, this is the part of the draft where I would usually get a running back or whatever, or even let's say, you're like, oh, I've really got to get a running back here. if Drake London falls to the fifth round, it doesn't matter. You can get another running back later in the draft. You've got a second round wide receiver coming to you in the fifth. Just wait till next round and draft the running back then, and your team will be much better.
Right. And this was just me being scared because I could have made Drake London my wide receiver 3.
Right. Me too, probably.
Yep.
Or
But you
four, even by that
no, you
point.
took cuz you had Wilson um yeah, you had Wilson and Pittman, and then you could have taken Drake London, but you took Anthony Richardson in the 5th.
Yeah.
And I took Joe Mixon because I knew that was a massive tier break at running back, and there were still receivers
Yeah,
I
it was.
liked. But I mean, it just I maybe I'll eat my words on that. I could add 3 elite receivers, but I decided to go the running back route. But he could have been there, and he fell all the way. He could be someone's wide receiver 3, where he's going at in the second round, which is asinine to me. So, congrats to Jim
Yeah.
Brosa over here on his elite trio of wide
I do want
receivers.
to say I was definitely the advice that I just gave is what got me for sure because I know I saw Dak Prescott go off the board and all these
Mm-hmm.
other quarterbacks. My focus was on quarterbacks at that point.
Right.
And I really wasn't even looking at getting a wide receiver because I would have loved to have Drake London. I've actually rose on him the more we've gotten closer to draft time, and if I had seen him there, I definitely would have loved to have him.
Right. And so then that just goes to show like people can slip through your fingers if you're not paying it. And I have a story of someone who slipped through my fingers that is going to come up later in here. So Drake London, back of the 5th, wild stuff. But that actually might not be the biggest faller. It might be tied for the biggest faller. We got to move to our next slide here. Um, the first, so the 6th round, Brandon Ayuk, middle of the 6th, wide receiver 23. This one
Yeah,
makes sense only in the fact that he has something outstanding that is limiting his possible like ceiling.
yeah,
Drake London, on the other hand,
yeah,
his is all projected upward. Brandon Ayuk is just projected to stay the same, and if he does it the same, he'll be great. And Ayuk was the guy every last year in our league. It was Mike Williams. Mike Williams just kept falling. I grabbed him like the 7th round. No one wanted Brandon Ayuk, and you guys know I love Brandon Ayuk, but it just came so many other players that I wanted that were more guaranteed, and he fell all the way one pick before me, middle of the 6th round, Brandon Ayuk.
yeah. I mean, if he stays with the Niners, that is the steal of the draft right there,
Hundred
most
percent,
likely.
100%.
That
London
or my
or
13th round pick.
well, yeah, we'll get there. Um, and of course, I had to take my man Amari Cooper right after. So when it got to uh, Michigan here's pick, I knew that I was gonna get my guy either way, or one of my guys, anyways. So Ayuk, and then we mentioned in the 7th round right here, this is the tight end round, and just like that, they can slip through your fingers. I think Justin felt that pretty bad. Four
I
tight
did.
ends. The first, second, fourth, and fifth pick of the 7th round were all tight ends. Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews, Trey McBride, and Jake Ferguson gone. Like
Yep.
that,
And I played the game with Jake Ferguson and I lost. I
and
played the
I
game. I thought he would come back to me.
I played the game with Trey McBride. I'm ecstatic. 7th round, and you guys know from listening to the show, you've seen me. I want an elite tight end. I want an elite quarterback. Just set it, forget it. Someone with massive upside, and I got both of those. So someone who I think just doesn't have the name recognition, like uh, Sam Laporta, best rookie tight end ever, a Travis Kelsey, a George Kittle, Dalton Kincaid, who was good last year, but he has Josh Allen. Like someone like those guys, and then Trey McBride just slowly kept falling and falling, and I
Yeah.
knew, I was like, am I really gonna have to decide between Mark Andrews and Trey McBride? And then when Toxic Timmy here took Mark Andrews, I was like, easy pick. Uh, the
Yeah.
next team after him, I was like, if you take Trey McBride, I'm going to be hanging from the rafters somewhere because
Yeah.
that's the
I
tier for me.
actually, Trey McBride is my favorite of the, you know, up and coming tight ends right now. I like him better than Kincaid.
I think so too, only because he is already
Kincaid's
proven.
already had the healthy quarterback and all the opportunity in the
Right,
world, and he's just been good.
right.
You know what I mean? But Trey McBride's been honestly better than Kincaid
He was
has been
elite
with
once Kyler
less
Murray.
upside. Like he hasn't even had fully healthy Kyler Murray, and he's been just as good at Kincaid, if not better. So
Right.
I mean, if he has a fully healthy Kyler Murray,
So
should
bring it on, baby.
one plus one equals two.
Bring on the elite season for Trey McBride. I'm excited. That's my favorite pick of the draft on my team. Um, so Justin missed out on a tier of tight ends, and then after that, DK Metcalf, middle of the seventh, wide receiver 27. There is
That was one.
zero
That was a
percent
snipe
chance.
for me.
Yes, that went right before Justin had to take Terry McLaurin, and I told him after the draft, I said, when I saw DK Metcalf like making it down to you, I was gonna be pissed because having DK Metcalf on Primetime's team, he's his wide receiver 3, or excuse me 4. DK is currently on his bench, and to have that foursome of wide receivers that he has, insane. And the fact that he's the wide receiver 27, there is 0% chance in my mind that unless there's an injury, he's going to finish below wide receiver
Oh yeah,
27.
he's
0%
somebody
chance.
that I really wanted. Dan, you know,
He will be
all draft
someone
season.
that
He's somebody
people
I
are
wanted.
going to be sending trade offers for all season long because he's going to be rotting on Primetime's bench.
I might send a trade offer before the season even begins just to see if I can snipe him.
Yeah, I mean, just because he's going to be rotting there and people are going to need receivers, they're going to get hurt, and, you can get a tank on his bench. So,
Although I am of the opinion that I think Terry McLaurin is. I think he's going to have his season this year, but we'll see.
he's going to have 1,005 yards this year instead of 1,000.
I'll take it 1,005 and 7
Four.
touchdowns.
Whatever. Yeah. I hope he does, my man. I hope he does. All right, who's next? Oh, this one's the spicy one. We got the first backup quarterback drafted, the first QB2, and it's Caleb Williams, who was the first backup QB on the board,
Yeah, and shocker, shocker, it's our friend who lives in Chicago.
and who also happens to be named Caleb. I thought about that, and I almost gave him a suggestion for a fantasy name, doing like something with that, like Caleb, you know what I'm saying? Like Caleb squared, something.
That's kind of stupid.
I was gonna workshop it, but I've seen if something could
You
come
can't
up.
make a team name for your player on your bench.
Sure, you can. If I would have made one
Oh,
for Rashi Rice, you think
I did
would
that.
you have? Yeah, yeah. What is yours?
I did that. I'm Brockhard.
Yeah. Whatever. Get the hell out of here. So, Caleb Williams was the first QB2. Someone just fell in love with the thought of, of Caleb Williams, and I can't see right here because we've got the one this board up. The only QB that was drafted after him that we can see is Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy has been a fantastic fantasy option. And
Yeah, I would have taken Goff, Jaden Daniels, Purdy,
right,
probably more.
but guess
There's
what?
probably more, but I would have
By
taken all of them over Caleb. But
Caleb Williams getting taken, that, and he already had Josh Allen. He's not drafting any more quarterbacks. So during your draft, you can see if I need a QB, like just cross his name off. Like he's not going to take it. If he takes 3 QBs, then that's his own problem. He has, but
actually, this is probably the first draft that Caleb hasn't taken more than 3 quarterbacks in a draft.
just wild cards, man. We'll see. We'll see if it pays off. I mean, he's going to start, and he is I project him to have some huge games. Whether you're going to be able to predict those, and he's got Josh Allen. So unless Josh Allen goes, on IR and he's gone for extended period of time, Caleb Williams is never going to get started. So, next up, George Pickens. This is where we can start to run through these kind of quick because I want to get into our teams here. George Pickens, end of the 8th, wide receiver 32. Extreme upside. He was drafted as Toxic Timmy's wide receiver 4. So people have perceptions of players, and no matter what ADP says, they're just not going to do it. They're just gonna keep falling. Keenan Allen. So I was curious. I was so curious where the Bears receivers were gonna lie. They're the all three on sleeper ADP are getting drafted in the top 36 between DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze.
And I think DJ Moore went appropriately. He went pretty high.
He went in the 6th round, which I think is way lower than what. I mean, had to be taken as people's wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I would say that
like
is
the 3rd round. Yeah, so they all fell, but they all still stayed kind of similar. So I'll just lump them all in together. Keenan Allen, wide receiver 33, and then Rome Odunze, wide receiver 36 in the middle of the 9th. Take your shot. This is where they are worth drafting because they don't need to be a reliable force for you. And if they are the one that Caleb Williams is in love with, then you struck gold, late in the draft.
And if Keenan Allen is 275 pounds now, you drafted him in the 13th round or whatever. So exactly. It doesn't really matter.
They can line him in on fullback dives and you'll get rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he's the next Deebo Samuel,
Or the next, was it BJ Raji?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, I think BJ Raji?
Frank the Tank?
No, BJ Raji. He was the nose tackle. One you might know, Vince Wilfork. Okay, exact. Imagine he was on the Packers, BJ Raji. They'd line up a nose tackle up at fullback and let him run a 2-yard dive. So
yeah, they used to do that in Little League with us, and that sucked.
Yeah, and it was on the wrong end of one of those tackles. It was not fun. So the Bears receivers this late, take your shot. It's worth it. Keon Coleman, he was an 8th round wide receiver 30. This was a buddy I went to FSU with. We love Keon Coleman. I texted him afterwards. I'm like, I hate you because you took him way earlier than he was supposed to go.
You didn't go to FSU with him.
What do you mean?
You didn't go to FSU with him.
Yes, I did. What are you talking about?
No, you were graduated long before you ever went to FSU.
With the guy who drafted him.
Oh.
Dumbass. No.
I was like calling cap. I thought you were saying that Keon Coleman went to college with. I was like, man.
No.
We've seen some FSU and basketball and football players at some parties, but I wouldn't call any of them friends.
No. No, the guy who drafted him, I went to Florida State with. So we're Florida State fans. He drafted Keon Coleman 3 rounds too early. And I texted him. I said, I hate you because I wanted him, but wasn't going to pay that price. So that's someone, if you're wanting to shoot a flyer on someone, make sure, maybe if someone's a LSU fan, don't let them get Brian Thomas Jr. Just feel those things out. Then Zay Flowers. So I have a confession to make. Oh, that episode's not released yet. No, it's not. Our Poison Players.
It will be when this one is released.
Ah, yes. So, yes, it has been released, and you guys can flame me because on last week's episode, we spoke about players that we're not touching on our drafts. Dude, off my board, we're not drafting them. And one of them was Zay Flowers for me, and he is primely positioned on my bench at this moment in time. But in the episode, I prefaced because he has to be your wide receiver 1 if you go, heavy other positions early, maybe your 2. I got him as my wide receiver 5 or 4, whatever, one of those. So
I don't know. Who'd you draft first, Flowers or Rice?
I drafted.
I think you drafted Rice first, right?
I did, yeah. So it was my wide receiver.
Which is crazy, honestly. I mean, we both love Rice, but I mean, like you're saying, Flowers.
Fried rice, brown rice, dirty rice, shrimp fried rice.
That's great.
Anyways, continue.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Flowers was supposed to go in the 5th or 6th round,
4 or 5 rounds earlier, and I'm like, look, he's a poison player to me. I ain't touching him with a 10-foot pole, but guess what?
He's the wide receiver 1 for the MVP.
He was 15 feet away, so I was able to, take someone with complete upside when I needed upside later. So that was a shocker. We talked about Roma Dunze. So, Justin, talking about Jaden Daniels in the middle of the 12th round as a QB 13.
Yeah, I thought there's no shot. I really wasn't planning on even taking a backup quarterback in the draft, honestly. And Jaden Daniels just kept on falling and falling and falling. Like I said, Caleb Williams went before him, Brock Purdy went before him, and he just fell to me. I was got to the point of the draft where I was like, there's nobody else that I can draft at this point that could win me my league.
Right.
And I was like, Anthony Richardson does have um, health issues here and there, or at least he's never played a full season college or NFL. So I was like, you know what? I want to win my league this year. Jane Daniels is one of those players that can win it with his legs. Let me take it. So
Yeah, we were doing. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but Justin and I were hanging out offline, and we saw his numbers from LSU last year. Just his
yeah,
rushing numbers alone, I think would have put him as like the RB4 in the NFL in fantasy.
yeah.
And passing
I want.
numbers with his 40 touchdown passes and 4 picks and what 4,600 yards, like he would have been top 5 QB as well if you separated two parts of his game.
I want to say this. I think that everybody's doing Jane Daniels really dirty. And I think it's because that he can rush so well. And there's funny videos of him just getting lit up.
There's funny
Although I
videos.
want to say this, I skateboarded for 5 or 6 years, and when it comes to falling,
Yeah, learn how to fall.
someone who knows how to fall, it always looks worse than it is because you want to kind of like make yourself go limp and like you don't
Yeah,
want to tense
ragdoll.
up and right, you want to ragdoll, and that's what happens when Jaden Daniels gets hit. So I mean, I'm not an expert, but I'm just saying maybe he's actually good at getting hit, and it looks bad, but
He
maybe
did
that'll
get
keep him
knocked out of the
healthy in the
Bama
NFL.
game and cause him to lose that game. He was on his way to upsetting Alabama. Um, but no, and I agree. I was so if you guys take a peek here, Justin is 4 picks or 3 picks ahead of me in this long turn for me, and Jaden Daniels was my pick. But I thought Justin might do Trey Benson, but it was one of those things. I knew I had 2 players I wanted. I knew one of them was going to come back to me. Justin took Jaden Daniels, so I took Trey Benson.
Yeah,
But yeah, as your QB2, who is going to play for you, I hate to break it to you, but AR is not going to play a full season. I will bet you money he's not going to play a full season.
we'll see.
Let me bet that and then forget to write it down.
I'm not gonna make that bet just because I don't even know if at this point it's like I don't know if any quarterback's gonna play a full season.
Right.
It's honestly almost kind of rare. Even I mean, I'm Josh
Well,
Allen, Patrick Mahomes, even the people who don't run. It's hard for them to play full season, so I wouldn't bet on anybody.
okay, but I'm just saying Jane Daniels will play for you unless he gets hurt, but he will play and start on your team some point.
Or
So
unless I drop
good
him.
pick. Then I will fab dump to pick him up. And then the final shocker, which is the player who slipped through my hands by pure oversight, is Justin's namesake on his team this year, Brock Bowers, because he is Brock hard right now.
I'm Brock Carter right now. Honestly, I've told Kyle, and I think we might have said this on the show. I've not been in on Brock Bowers
I've
for
been on
fan
a Brock
football.
Bowers.
He is.
I am the Brock Bowers man.
Kachiga, Kachiga. I got him,
Cars reference.
and I'm gonna use him.
Yeah, and I mean, but that for Justin's team, this is the only props I'll give him. Is it's like the perfect back, like with Njoku
It
as
was one
his
of those
tight
picks
end.
during
Like
the
you
draft
needed
where
it.
I was like, I felt like I put the last puzzle piece in on the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
It felt so good because I was like, all I had was David Njoku, and I'm not the biggest fan of him for fantasy football. He was just somebody that I was like, if Brock Bowers doesn't get to me later, I've got to get somebody. And I played the game right, and Brock Bowers came all the way back to me, and I'm pretty excited.
So this is my experience with that. We did it virtually, but we were all on FaceTime, us and our buddies. And I was like, I don't know who I want. This one receiver kept falling, kept falling. It was just like name fatigue. He's hurt right now. No one wanted him, but like someone everyone know and love for fantasy. So I was like, I'll take DeAndre Hopkins in case he's still the one wide receiver depth because I went heavy running backs early. And then 2 minutes later, I see Brock Bowers get stamped, and I face palmed so hard. The amount of upside for Bowers
Again,
versus
you got to
Hopkins,
watch who's there. Kyle wasn't. He didn't even know.
I
He
because
thought Brock
I
Bowers went 5 rounds
it
earlier.
wasn't even that. It was I don't draft a backup tight end. Especially, I grabbed Trey McBride, so why am I going to waste a roster spot on a backup
Right.
tight end? So I didn't even click on the tight end tab. I didn't even see. I'm like, let me build running backs, wide receivers. Let me just keep building my bench, and he slipped through the cracks. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of leagues where Brock Bowers is going right next to David Njoku, if not before him. And I was able to
yeah,
get him, what,
in the
5 rounds after?
13th round as the tight end 13. Mind you, on this screenshot, Dallas Goddard went above Brock Bowers, who Goddard has zero upside in my opinion, zero, zero, zero,
Zero.
zero. So, but that's it. The rest is bench fodder and hopes and dreams. And my last pick of the draft was Jared Goff, but we'll break down our teams now. But hope you guys enjoyed seeing a little bit of what a real life draft with championship stakes, money stakes, with punishment to last place punishment stakes, what that looks like from a group of friends who's known each other for a decade plus that we all take very seriously. People tilt, things happen, so don't go into your draft thinking I'm never going to get this player or I'm for sure going to get this player. His ADP is the 8th round. Boom, Dak Prescott gone, 4th round. Pivot, prepare, and have fun with it, man. Like DeAndre Hopkins is not fun. I messed up having fun. I could have had Brock Bowers and had some fun.
Yeah,
Um,
and if you come out of the draft just, my team sucks, I'm screwed, you never know. You never know. I mean, DeAndre Swift could be the running back 2 this year. You have no clue.
right. So have fun with it. We had a blast. We were on a Snapchat FaceTime actually, just fucking around
Just
with
running through
Snapchat
filters.
filters and having a great time. You know, and that's one of my favorite days of the year is sitting down with all my friends talking football who we don't get to talk football. We don't live near each other anymore, so just being able to do that is a great time and enjoying it. But now that that's over, here comes the fun part. It's talking shit to your friends based on the teams that you drafted and tell them how wrong you are. So I'm going to move this slideshow back to the start of our teams here. So we are going to look at it probably not in the best way, but somewhere where we can have a straight on opinion and like say yes or no. We're going to go position by position and say whose player do we think is better. Like straight up, who would you rather have on your team in your starting lineup for the rest of the year? Because
Right.
we did this a little offline and we've got some mixed opinions. So I'd be curious to see if anyone wants to input on that. So starting at the top, QB, Jalen Hurts, Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I think we both agree that you take Jalen Hurts just because you've already seen it,
Seen it
and
2
they're
years in a
honestly
row.
almost a
QB2.
similar archetype for quarterbacks. So
Jalen Hurts had 13 rushing touchdowns last year. Like it or
right,
15 rushing touchdowns last year. NFL
which
record.
I'm sure touchdown regression's gonna come
Sure.
for sure on that, but
But that's
you
in
know,
the possibilities. It was 600
right,
yards rushing, rushing touchdown floor, elite receiver weapon. I mean, I took him in the 3rd round for God's sakes. Like he is a cream of the crop. 2 years in a row, QB2. Jalen Hurts gets the nod.
yeah, we definitely both agree there. Here's where I do think we definitely disagree. Which I didn't think going into the draft that we did disagree on this. I thought that Kyle agreed that like Derrick Henry, in my opinion, Derrick Henry is at least taking a tiny step down. in productivity and skill level.
I do
And
too.
I think the world of Kenneth Walker personally.
And I
I
do
think that
too.
he is up there with the most talented backs in the league. I think for him, it more so depends on staying healthy and their team just not being absolutely doo doo poo poo.
Yeah,